Well, hello and welcome to week 8. So that means that we are right in the middle, just going over the hump, and we've made it pretty good so far. So now that we're into the podcast assignment, we'll be working on that and doing the different parts of that as we slide into the end of the semester. I wanted to talk just briefly about the choosing what you want to talk about for your podcast. Um, Now, I haven't given you a lot of real specific requirements, but the idea is you're going to, do your podcast presentation on something that connects to what we're learning about in the class. But that does not mean that you're just going to repeat something you've read. It's not like I'm giving you a test and saying, okay, explain such and such concept. When you're thinking about what you want to do for your podcast, think about you want something that's interesting. You want to add to the conversation. You're not just repeating something. So, maybe there's something in the class that you can point to, connect to, but also you have more to say about it, more to add to it, interesting angles that you see or have engaged with, related to that. So think about, it's got to be interesting. If you just repeat information or, it's not a research paper, it's not a essay test. It's not a review or anything like that. It's an opportunity for you to, do something that you find interesting. Now, and I had you find examples because I wanted you to see how, the kinds of topics and how the people that, do different podcasts relate to their audience. What kinds of things do they present? How do they present? You don't have a lot of time for your podcast. A lot of podcasts are probably 15 minutes is the shortest, but usually they're 30 minutes to an hour long. And number one, I'm sure you guys don't want to do anything that long, but everybody would storm the palace if I assigned that. But logistically, it just doesn't make sense to have, try to even wade through that much information. But when you think about what you're going to, talk about, be very specific. Do something a very narrow focus. There's, concepts that we cover in class that you can connect to, but, be very, very specific and, talk about whatever you want to connect to, but just like one thing, one idea or one example or one story or however, whatever kind of information you want to share. Now, those of you that work in groups, you can take a little bit more time. So if that's not clear, ask me, post questions and ask me about that in the first forums in this week or next week or whenever, but of course the sooner the better. Now I had mentioned Bloom's taxonomy. Somebody had asked a question about the podcast, and I wanted to use this just to kind of explain how you should think about your topic for the podcast as well, because one of the things that's kind of done to you as a student, all of us, it was done to me too. A lot of what we do in classes is we're down here at this remember or understand, recall facts, explain concepts or ideas or concepts. It's that idea of, the teacher gives you all this information and then you just regurgitate it back in some form or fashion. But that's not what this assignment is about. So you're going to be up in these categories: apply, analyze, evaluate, create. Use information in new situations. A podcast is probably a new situation for most of you guys. Nobody's mentioned that they have created a podcast or done their own podcast, although maybe some of you have, but I know I never have. I'm interested in maybe trying to put one together, but in all my spare time, of course. But this is a new way for you to present information. So it's not a PowerPoint. Like I said, it's not an oral report. I mean, how many classes have you been in where, okay, we're going to do everybody has to do a presentation at the end, and, you sit through that, and it's just torture because it's all just, going over information and boring, and, it's usually the teacher will set it up, give you real specific way of what you should cover and how you should cover it. So there's really no thinking involved in that. Analyze, draw connections. See, this is what I'm wanting you to do, connections, and they give you some ideas about how, what that means when you connect. What are the different ways you can connect, and go back to, like I said, when you do a podcast, people do podcasts because they have something they want to say. And, it's something specific to them that they're really interested in and want to share for some reason. So, think about what you want to, give to your audience. And in this case, our audience is going to be like you guys went out and looked for podcasts. I mean, this is the same kind of thing. If we put your podcast out there, why would people be interested in it? Why would they want to listen to what you're doing? If you just say, I'm going to explain the concept of blah, 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 why would anybody want to come to that podcast? You can sit and read and get that information for yourself. Evaluate, justify a standard decision, appraise, argue, defend, judge, etc. Maybe you want to complicate something you read or something you, some idea that somebody had that you saw and you thought about that, and there's more to it, that you want to, complicate the idea a little bit. Produce new or original work. When you put together the podcast and you're presenting your idea, in effect, you're doing a new slant on the information. You're adding to the conversation. So, but think very much, at least analyze, draw connections among ideas. And you're going outside of what we've talked about, what we've covered in class. You're adding to the conversation. And, again, it's not, I'm just going to say what I learned about blah, blah, blah. It's much more than that. And I'm doing that to, challenge you to use your critical thinking skills, because that's what's important. Content you can always, look up or, review. And but when somebody asks you to do something, out on the job, you need some critical thinking skills, which you all have and you're all good at. But, I want you to practice those. I want it to be interesting. I want it to be something that relates to you and your interest, and, something you can share that shows your thinking and your ideas about things. So, I'm hoping it's a better opportunity than just, say, doing another research paper or, the other kind of, like I said, a PowerPoint presentation, all of the, worn out kind of cliched kind of ways of just doing, this stuff down here, recall something or explain an idea. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to, choose, and all the great podcasts that, we'll see come out of this. So, like I said, keep posting your questions about anything related to the podcast, any part of it. Now's a good time to ask. And as I answer questions, I'll keep adding to the Google Doc. So make sure you keep checking the Google Doc. Go back and review it. Don't just, look at it once and never go back and look at it again, because it's a resource. It's the place where, we're going to be talking about. And I'll add info as I, find things to help explain, any of the areas where I can, put in more stuff that will help you guys. So anyway, I hope everything's going okay. I hope whatever midterms you have that you're making A plus and 100 plus and all the extra credits on. So hang in there, and we'll keep working. And like I said, we'll slide into the end of the semester here before we know it. So good to talk to you, and I will chat with you again soon.